Hey everybody, welcome to another episode of the LitRPG Podcast. I'm Ramon Mejia. I'm here to bring you the latest LitRPG news, reviews, and of course author interviews. Episode number 257 of the show. Getting deep in those numbers now. Got 5 reviews for you this week. That's going to include Death's Favorite Warlock, Real-Time Starcommander, and also Black Dawn Apocalyptic LitRPG Adventure. So, that's the wrong one. There you go, Black Dawn. Sorry, wrong picture. We also have a couple reviews for our contributor, Ian Mitchell. He'll actually drop an awesome reviews for Rebel, Last Chance book number 2, and the Iron Prince Warformed Stormreaver book number 1. So some nice reviews there. But before we get into any of that, of course, we're going to go into a little bit of LitRPG news. Just one little bit of LitRPG news this week. A little bit of slow news week in this genre. But Shadow Alley Press is actually making a call to writers and readers to submit short stories for their series. I forget what it's called, the Rogue Dungeon series. Sorry, they have a whole post about it on their page on Facebook. But that's basically what it is. The deadline for submissions are January the 20th, 2021. So a little bit under a week from now. So I just want to make sure you guys knew about it in case you were a fan of that series, or if you just want to submit a short story. In general, short story collections don't make you a lot of money. But they are a good way to get exposure for your work, get people interested, get people a chance to see different authors in one collection with good writing skills, of course, and can lead off to other opportunities. It's also a nice, way to start your writing career if you want, because it's very short requirements. You're not writing 100,000 page, 100,000 words. It's, 10,000, whatever the requirements are on this. But there are some definite details here for the submissions here. We'll have a link in the show notes for you, or you can just go to shadowalleypress.com/submissions, and they'll also note the requirements to do a short story for that particular series. In stuff that's out now, we have some stuff that came out this last week, and that includes Reborn Evolution, the second book in the Warlock Chronicles series. We also have Activation book number 1. Savage Dominion should be out by the time most people watch this show. Written by Luke Chimolenko and G.D. Penman. It's a new series from Luke. He says it's a LitRPG story in the title. He knows his business. Also out is Merc's Rapture, Fantasy LitRPG Adventure. The third book in the Henchman series from Carl Stubfield. Also the second book in the Couch Potato Chronicles called Couch Potato Crisis. Also, Shadow Kingdoms book number 1, The Knights of Dawn is out, as is a popular-ish Roy Road story set as an Amazon novel now called Salvos Volume 1, Curious Beginnings. Also out is Village of Hawkshed, and the 7th book in the Dungeon Core Academy series. That's fairly popular with people who like Dungeon Core stories. Also, a story from Ivan Kalf, who's a recognized author, a LitRPG author rather. It's a LitRPG cultivation saga called Monsters and Legends. The 27, it says in the Roman numerals, book in the Into the Black series by Stuart Gross is out for fans of that particular series. I think he also has one for the Loot Dungeon series. I just couldn't post it because the cover art I think always gets me in trouble on YouTube. But I'm letting you know about it verbally. The latest edition of that is in there. Also, Civ CEO 6 is out. I can't believe there's already 6 books in this series. I enjoyed book number 1 and I kind of missed out on book number 2. I didn't get to in time, and I can't read them out of order. But a lot of people really enjoy the series. So Civ CEO 6 is out for you who are fans of that particular series. In audiobooks this past week, we got Life Reset book number 5. This is Conquest. I'll talk about book number 6 a little bit. That's actually just, popped up on our radar. But book number 5 is an audiobook. Conquest is out for you to enjoy. Aces High Reality Benders book number 6 is also out. Soul Bond, the Dimensional Wars book number 2 is out. Novaterra, Titan, and Greymare. Actually, this is coming out as a collection. Book 1 and 2 in this series are put together. So lots of audiobook listening there. The second book in the Mithril Online series is out as an audiobook, as is the second book in the Ashen Plains series called Omens, out for you to enjoy. The second book and the re-release of the Uniworld Online series by Jonathan Brooks. The Song Mistress is out. This is a series that got picked up by a new publisher, and they re-released all the books and the audiobooks, of course. Also out is Awakening, Outworld, as is the third book, rather, in the Life in Exile series, Watcher's Fate. Jonathan Brooks' Dungeon of Chaos, Even Odds, out as an audiobook. I really enjoyed the ebook version of this. I can only imagine that the audiobook is even better. Civ CO book number 2 is out as an audiobook, as is the Heaven's Boxer Overdrive book number 1. I actually enjoyed the ebook version of this quite a bit. It's a mech LitRPG story. It was picked up, I think, by Atheon Publishing. And so there's been a re-release of books 1, 2, and 3 recently. I'm assuming there's editing and whatever copywriting is done. But also they're putting out audiobooks on this. So the first one in that series. So go check it out if you have a chance, if you like mech stuff. The 7th book in the Arcane Kingdom Online series is out as an audiobook, and the Quick Change books numbers 1 and 2 out as a publisher pack, and Condition Evolution book number 2 by Kevin Sinclair out for you to enjoy as an audiobook. So all kinds of good stuff there. In upcoming LitRPG, we got a list of stuff that's coming out in the near future. Blast Off, Interstellar Online book number 1, out on January the 17th. January the 18th, the Rogue Merchant book number 3. January the 18th, the Shadeslinger, which is a new book from Portal Books. These usually do pretty good stuff. The Heavenly Throne book number 4, January the 19th. January the 19th as well, the Life in Exile book number 4, audiobook for 3 is out. Ebook out on January the 19th. Life Reset Salvation, which is the 6th book in that series, will be out January the 19th. So the 5th book is out as an audiobook now. The 6th book in the Life Reset series will be out on January the 19th. Player Reaches the Top book number 4, January the 20th. The 2nd book in the Punic Wars, the Great Centurion series, January 22nd. Rifleman is out on January 26th. The Dungeon Crafting series, book number 5, will be out on January the 27th by Jonathan Brooks. James Cyrus Baldwin's 5th book in his Archimia Online series will be out on January the 30th. Legends Online book number 8, January the 31st. Univel, Black Flame Online, Path of Crafting, book number 1. This is actually, it seems like it's a spin-off series set in the same kind of Black Flame universe. So if you like that series, you might like the spin-off. Seems like there's going to be crafty. It's in the name. January the 31st. February the 1st, it'll be God's Choice 6, Sigma Worlds, book number 5. February the 1st, it's going to be the 10th book in the System Apocalypse series. That's right, this story is still going on, still super popular, by Town Wong. Book number 10, February the 1st again. February the 2nd, The Adventures of Dan, book number 2. I enjoyed book number 1. February the 2nd, a new series, Underpowered Howard. February the 2nd as well is going to be Dream Stream Reality, book number 3. February the 10th, The Good Guys, book number 10. February the 8th, it'll be The Motors of Keldra, the 3rd book in the Factory of Gods. February the 16th, Rule of Cool, a LitRPG novel. February the 17th, Dagger of Doom, beta testers, book number 5. February the 17th, Discardium, book number 6. On February the 19th, it'll be the 3rd book in the Bone Knight series. Actually, that book 1 is pretty decent. February the 23rd, Jeff the Game Master. Rogue Merchant, book number 4, will be out on March the 9th. Overdrive, book number 3, will be out on March the 16th. On March the 19th, it'll be Lucky Slots. On March the 31st, the Guild Core, book number 3. March 31st as well, it'll be Sovereign's Choice, God's Game, Volume 5. And March 31st, it'll be the 4th Secret, Divine Apostasy, book number 4. So that's all the stuff I know that's coming out in the near future, folks, for you to enjoy, to plan your reading schedules, your publishing schedules, whatever works for you. And now on to new releases and reviews. And first up this week, we have Death's Favorite Warlock, a new series from Charles Dean. It is 490 pages, $3.99. It's available on Kindle Unlimited, and here's the author's description. Kill them all. It's the first foreword Lars usually wakes up to every morning as the voice in his head nags him, telling him she's just giving him a quest that'll help him level. But even if he wanted to, he can't. They're cultivators, beings with ancestral bloodlines that have powers he could only dream of that may as well be gods while he is stuck as a puny human. Even if he could kill them, the people who bullied him, beat him, treated him like a punching bag pariah for being the tailless, worthless human that he was to them, he wouldn't. It just wasn't in Lars's nature. That is, until a vicious group of murderous psychopaths called a sect descended upon his village. The vicious group brutally kills everyone he's known his entire life, taking a select few with them as slaves. Lars must now trust that he isn't going insane and find a way to complete the Voice's quest and level up, so that he can save his mother from her cruel and heartless captors in this cultivation-themed LitRPG and Gamelit adventure. So there you go. It's actually a really good description of kind of the setup for the story and kind of the thematic mixes of cultivation and LitRPG. It's an interesting new kind of story from the author. Generally, his other stories that he's written have been mostly like a fantasy LitRPG style. So this is kind of a new branch of story that he's doing. You can definitely tell that the author has a real love for LitRPG, but also a respect and caring for cultivation stories that he's read a lot. As someone who's recently got into webcomics and manhwa, I think I'm saying that right, kind of cultivation stories, I definitely noticed like a lot of like things he's pulling from like well-known stories or just like that genre itself and pulling them into his story, and definitely making fun of both genres in a kind of good nature, but also like I like, oh, he's making fun of this well-known trope, and that's definitely a hallmark of the author enjoying the genre that he's working in. The storytelling in this is going to be familiar to anybody who's enjoyed a cultivation novel or who's read a webcomic of that kind. So people who like cultivation are going to like this. People who like LitRPG are going to enjoy this. So there's a broad category of people who are probably going to enjoy this. I personally really thought it was funny, some of the nods the author's made to other stories in other series that he's written. As someone who's read everything Charles Dean has written, I was like, oh, I recognize this, and I'm like, is this connecting to that thing that isn't into the story? I don't want to spoil things, but those little touches always make you appreciate how much the author cares about his readers and connecting things and doing good storytelling. The only kind of issue for me personally when I was reading the story was definitely at the beginning of it. The beginning kind of had some issues in storytelling for me. They're not, I mean, this is honestly a tiny thing. I think I wish that there was just more details about the main character's upbringing and more story, I guess. I wanted to connect with the main character and his world a little bit more in the very beginning. Once the story as it is, I think takes a little longer to connect you to the main character and the world building than I probably would have liked, or I probably would have appreciated, I guess, because I just wanted more information on the character, more things to like learn about him, so I could be engaged in his successes and failures much earlier. The author does do plenty of good character development. It just takes a little while took a little while for me, I should say, to connect to the character a little bit. Once I did, everything was really fun and interesting. There's lots of fighting, lots of adventure, lots of good cultivation, action, worksheet kind of stuff going on in the story. And I had a definitely good time with it. It just took a little longer to connect to the main character than I think I would have liked. Still, overall, it's a good story, good literature that branches into this cultivation universe without leaving behind the RPGs, which is a very hard mix to do. Sometimes authors will just abandon the RPG stuff entirely for a more wand wavy magic system kind of cultivation thing, or they'll do some weird mix. And I think this is a very interesting decision on how the author combined the RPG stuff with like a cultivation kind of world and making those both inherently important to this particular story universe. And even for me, somebody who's not like a huge fan of cultivation, still kind of enjoys the webcomic version of it, but not necessarily all the fan translated stuff that's out in the universe. Even I enjoyed like the pokes and the jokes about cultivation or that kind of thing. So for me, I had a good time with it. It's score 7.4 out of 10. That's Death's Favorite Warlock with a score of 7.4 out of 10. Okay, next review is going to be the Real-Time Starcommander, a strategy game-lit novel written by Tracy Gregory. It is 180 pages, $3.99, available on Kindle Unlimited. Here's the author's description. Yesterday, a wannabe pro gamer, today an alien admiral. Evan was desperate to hit the big time playing Starcommander, the world's most popular real-time strategy game. While Evan works hard to get the pros to notice him, it's very different eyes that are captivated by Evan's progress. The Kieran hegemony is at war. Outclassed at every step, the aliens turn to the most warlike race they know, humanity. Abducted from Earth, Evan finds himself fighting for his life using his skills to command hegemony forces in desperate battle. Now, helped by fellow humans, Evan must prove victory can be grasped from the jaws of impossible odds. So there we go. This is not a LitRPG story, but it's a Gamelit story, so it's adjacent, and I really actually I enjoyed it quite a bit. But that's also because I like real-time strategy games, and this story really was very faithful to those kind of mechanics. And I'm not super into RTS games. I don't play StarCraft. I don't can play competitively, but I can certainly appreciate the skillful tactics that are necessary to kind of win those games. That there are tactics and build orders and things you can do to counter other people's strategies, and a lot of that is incorporated in the story, maybe not specifically, combining those same tactics, but like that same kind of conceptualization, that same kind of vibe, definitely. So if you like real-time strategy games, I think you'll enjoy this, because from what I can tell, the author actually has experience, or at least does a good amount of research to make you believe it is so that those concepts are very much an integral part of the story system. It also had a kind of Last Starfighter vibe to it, which I really appreciate. I enjoy that movie quite a bit. And the premise is, the initial hook is very similar. Aliens are in trouble from some unknown enemy, and so they pick up gamers to help them win. And in this case, it very much is a humans helping in a real-time strategy situation. And I really enjoyed, I think, the game mechanic side of it a lot, which is what we do in the podcast, which is why I enjoy the most. Like the integration of that kind of real-time strategy concept into the like technology of this alien, and I always say the word hegemony. I had an issue with that when I was reading Enter Game too. But that kind of alien civilization, that their technology would be based on this kind of long distance creation of units needed as they go, and grabbing of resources that are around there. And so that the world building very much made sense as far as like fitting in the RTS kind of conceptualizations and those game mechanics, and making them feel like, oh, we're not just sticking these in. This is well thought out as far as like how it would actually be integrated into an alien civilization that expands galaxies, right? And how it would be necessary to be able to control them from like great distance, instantaneously, but also like create as you needed them to be based on resources around you. So I thought it was really well done in that regards, and it felt really natural as far as like integrating those mechanics into the story system. The pacing, the story itself, again, also entertaining. I thought, I'd probably say the only thing I could think of that was a little bit off was this felt like it was like almost half of a book, or I guess another way to say is that I could have enjoyed twice as much story. I think it would have worked really well. The author may just be like cutting off at a certain points to test the waters to see if it's worth their time to, write another book or series on it. But even at 180 pages, it's still a very well told story. It just felt like, the point in which the story kind of not pauses, it does have a resolution in this big, combat situation. I feel like, that would have been a great midpoint for a larger story. And that's just really me saying I wanted to read more. I wanted to read, like, see where this adventure kind of went with this kind of space combat stuff going on. So it was enjoyable for me. I did find the pacing a little predictable. Again, the game stuff was well introduced in the beginning half of the story. It did take a little while just to kind of explain a lot and explain the world building as why it would, of course, use the RTS mechanics. But there's still some action combat in there. But it's the last half that felt a little more space fighty, spaceship stuff. And if you're more into like those space battles things, the last half of the story will be feel a little more satisfying in that respect. And yeah, that's kind of it. Those are my thoughts. Good setup for a series. Or, to see if there's a test to if there's readership for this kind of story. And I hope there is. I hope the author continues to read, to write in this universe. It was enjoyable. Overall, I think it's an enjoyable story. If you like space fights, if you like space battles and stuff, and if you like RTS kind of game mechanics. If you're looking for something that's more LitRPG, this isn't going to do it because it's not this kind of story. It's not advertising that kind of story. That there's very much, it says on the cover, real-time strategy in there. There's no like leveling up or anything like that, but it very much is faithful to other kind of RTS mechanics. So for me, I take time with it. It gets a score 7.8 out of 10. That's real-time Starcommander, a strategy Gamelit novel with a score of 7.8 out of 10. And next up we have Black Dawn, an Apocalyptic LitRPG adventure, Fae Nexus, book number 1, written by Nathan Amay. It is 353 pages. It is $4.99. It is available on Kindle Unlimited. Here's the author's description. Magic, mayhem, and moonshine. Gage came home to the Ozarks to mend fences with the friends he'd left behind. But when a solar storm reconnects Earth to the Fae Nexus, the world is engulfed in magical energy, altering the laws of nature violently. Fuel, ammunition, and electronics explode, leaving the world in a dark apocalypse. As the flames die down, demons emerge through the Fae Nexus, swarming Gage's hometown and enslaving the survivors. To fight back, Gage and his reunited friends harness Fae powers, becoming the wizard, ranger, and fighter they've always played in their favorite role-playing game. With the help of a pair of moonshiners turned alchemist and the ghost of a long-dead gunslinger, Gage and his friends have to level up fast to free their families and defend their homes against the demonic horde. He may have walked away once, but this time the only thing Gage is leaving behind are his regrets and a pile of dead demons. Yeah, not bad. That's actually a decent description. This is a good RPG apocalypse story. It stars 3 main characters, 2 siblings and a friend. Their backstory issues, I didn't really like the backstory, like the argumentative portions of the backstory. I liked the description of why you left, why you came back, but I didn't like their infighting considering what was at stake, essentially the universe, the world, and fighting these demons. It didn't detract from the story, but just wasn't my favorite. Didn't work for me. Other people probably really enjoy it. Like the emotional drama, I guess, wasn't really my thing. It didn't detract from the other things I enjoyed about the show, the action, the adventure, interesting magical theorizing, which is probably my favorite part. The RPG mechanics come in nice and crunchy very much early, so if you like a crunchy RPG story, this is going to do it for you. There's a very clear leveling system with stats, classes, notifications galore, but the best part for me, and this doesn't really show up till midway in the story, it was the magical theorizing, the magical spellcrafting. One of the main characters has a class for a wizard, but he has to create his own spells by studying face symbols he finds and putting together spell parts. It was a very flexible mechanic that allowed for creative problem solving and combat without losing the RPG mechanics and becoming one-wave. I really did enjoy the ability for the main character to kind of craft his own spells and kind of have a nice variety of options. Not all of them useful immediately, but, the longer they went, the more you thought about how to use them intelligently, they became useful, which I also always appreciate. On the story side of things, good things, the setup for the RPG apocalypse wasn't 100% original, like invaders from another dimension or another world or whatever. But I did like the character setup, the background for these kind of country folk who are used to evading the law and having their own kind of sub-society of having a history of bootlegging and going against the law. So they have these different hideouts or areas, or they're used to being independent of central authorities, and their responses from different as different characters. There were probably a few places where the pacing was a little slow for a little bit too long, but other than that, man, the pacing on the whole really did a good job of keeping in line with the apocalypse setting, and also with the in providing plenty of reason for the main characters to do what they do in the story. I was probably a little disappointed that there wasn't more progression on the main theme, like the big problem of like, of the situation of freeing friends and family from a particular situation. But, it's okay. I understand that the author is teasing that out for like a book 2, book 3. He needs a big motivation or goals for the characters to do things still. But still, overall, good progress in the story, plenty of good fights, with a little bit of defensive tactics and base building towards the end of the story. So good stuff all around. Gets a score of 7.5 out of 10, a real solid, good score in the middle. That's Black Dawn, an apocalyptic LitRPG adventure, Fey Nexus, book number 1, with a score of 7.5 out of 10. And next, it's Iron's Picks of the Week. It's a segment of the show where our contributor, Ian Mitchell, a longtime LitRPG community member and reader who reads and reviews as much as I do, more than I do now, it's nice enough to send us some reviews that we can read for the podcast for you to enjoy. He often reads and reviews other things that I don't have a chance to. So it's a nice chance to expand the reviews that we are able to give you folks. And one of his reviews for this week is going to be Rebel, Last Chance, book number 2, by KT Hanna. He says, an accelerated death lessons. Such an odd story. A strange, dreamlike mix of superheroes, supernatural, and spy thrillers. The plucky MC tries to live her school life amidst strange missions, never quite knowing who she can trust. There's a sense of mystery that's always there. At times it reads a bit like some cultivation novels where the author keeps the reader off balance while handing out clues at a pretty good rate. This reminds me of Inception. That's a lot of information to unpack there. I don't know quite how to take that. It gets a score of 8.4 to 10, which means I enjoyed it. I remember reading book number 1 and not quite working for me personally, but that's okay. Not every book is written for every person. That's perfectly okay. But I'm glad that Ian had a chance to read book number 2, and he liked book number 1. He's enjoying book number 2. So if you liked KT Hanna's other works, you might enjoy this as well. So there you go. He gave a score of 8.4 out of 10. He also gave a review for Prince, Warformed, story over book number 1 by Bryce Connor and Luke Chimolenko. He says, knocked it out of the park. Midway through book 1, I thought, man, this reminds me of Ender's Game, one of my favorite books. One minor dig, the beginning didn't suck me in. The book had a good, solid ramp. It did have a high-tech cultivation feel with evolving tech armor/weapons that the users are bonded with. That brought up the anime God Eater to mind. I actually like that anime. The academy bit was well done with a gang of friends centered around Ray, the MC. Now, so many sneaking around, breaking school rules, mostly hard work and training, some good antagonists, and lots of great fights. The end felt like a perfect landing with the wonderful what's next feel. I can definitely recommend as a great read and as a complete book feel. Roll credits. And he gives it a score of 9.3 out of 10. So that's a very high review score from Iron. So that's the Iron Prince Warformed Stormweaver with a score of 9.3 out of 10. So that's it. That's all the reviews we got from this week. So that'll be the end of Iron's Picks of the Week. And that is it, folks. That is the end of the show. Thank you very much for listening, for watching, for hanging out with me this week on the podcast. Remember, you can always follow us on Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, Patreon, our website, Spotify, and Audible. There are plenty of places to listen to the podcast, or you can just watch the videos on Facebook or YouTube, or our website. Plenty of things. And of course, if you want to support the podcast and find out all the ways to do so, you can go to litrpgpodcast.com/support. But until we can hang out again, ladies and gentlemen, remember to go read some LitRPG. Goodbye, everybody.